The open-plan office buzzed with laughter and chatter as the workday ended. Balloons, music, and the smell of champagne filled the air. The company's annual gala was all anyone could talk about. At the center of it all, surrounded by his usual crowd, sat Ilya Korovin, tall, charming, and annoyingly confident. His easy smile and sharp wit made him the unofficial star of every office event. Across the room, sitting quietly at her desk, Lera Morozova adjusted her glasses and pretended not to hear their laughter. She was the kind of woman people overlooked, neat, polite, efficient, and invisible. She stayed late every night, never complained, and always dressed simply, as if she was trying not to take up space. When someone from Ilya's group mentioned that everyone was bringing a +1, he smirked and looked toward Lera. "Maybe I should invite our sweet accountant," he said loud enough for others to hear. The table erupted in laughter. "She wouldn't dare come," one of the girls giggled. "She probably doesn't even own a dress." Ilya chuckled, swirling his drink. "Well then, let's see. Lera," he called out suddenly, his voice cutting across the room. She turned, startled. "Yes." He leaned back in his chair, grin wide. "You're coming to the gala tomorrow, right? Consider this your official invitation." A few snickers rippled through the room. Lera blinked, unsure whether to take it seriously. "Are you joking?" He raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like I'm joking?" The laughter that followed stung more than she wanted to admit. She forced a small smile. "Then I'll see you there," she said quietly, and turned back to her computer. Ilya smirked, raising his glass in mock salute. "I'll be waiting." When the office emptied later that night, Lera sat alone under the pale glow of her desk lamp. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, but her mind was elsewhere. His words replayed in her head, blending with the laughter. She wasn't angry, she was tired of being the punchline. She opened her phone and stared at her reflection in the dark screen. "You'll be waiting," she whispered to herself, a faint, almost dangerous smile forming on her lips. Then wait. The night of the gala arrived, and the grand ballroom of the Crystal Crown Hotel gleamed under 1,000 golden lights. A soft melody drifted from the string quartet in the corner, while elegantly dressed guests mingled, clinking glasses and exchanging polite laughter. It was a world of silk dresses, crisp tuxedos, and polished confidence, and no one expected Lera Morozova to be part of it. Ilya stood near the bar, laughing with a few colleagues, his charm as effortless as always. He had almost forgotten the little invitation joke from yesterday, almost. Every time the doors opened, he'd glance up with mild curiosity, expecting to see another guest, another face he actually knew. But somewhere deep down, he found himself waiting for something else, something he couldn't name. Then the main doors opened again. For a moment, no one noticed. The music continued, people chatted, until a hush began to spread like a slow wave. One by one, heads turned. Conversations died mid-sentence. The violins faltered, the pianist hesitated. Because she was standing there. Lera. She wasn't the quiet woman from the office anymore. She was radiant, almost unreal. Her dark hair was styled in soft curls that brushed her bare shoulders, and her emerald green gown shimmered with every subtle move she made. It hugged her figure perfectly but tastefully, the slit revealing just enough to whisper elegance, not boast it. A pair of silver earrings caught the light as she moved forward, her heels clicking against marble like the rhythm of confidence itself. No one spoke. Even the waiters paused. Ilya's smile vanished. His heart thudded once, hard, as if it suddenly remembered something it had been missing. His glass slipped slightly in his hand, and the sound of the ice clinking seemed absurdly loud in the silence. She actually came," one of his friends whispered, stunned. But Ilya didn't answer. He couldn't. He was too busy watching her. Lera's gaze swept across the room, calm, deliberate, detached. When her eyes found Ilya, she didn't smile. She simply looked at him, long enough for him to feel the weight of his own foolishness. Then, with perfect poise, she turned away and walked deeper into the crowd, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air like a quiet victory. The whispers began. "Who is she?" "That's Lera from accounting." "No way, she looks like a movie star." The band quickly recovered, starting a new tune, but the energy had shifted. Wherever Lera went, attention followed. People greeted her, offered compliments, even the director himself seemed impressed. Meanwhile, Ilya stood frozen. His usual charm had evaporated, leaving him with something unfamiliar, admiration mixed with regret. He realized, in one humiliating instant, that his joke had turned into his downfall. When he finally gathered the courage to approach her, Lera was speaking with the company's CEO, laughing softly at something he said. Her laugh, confident, melodic, was a sound Ilya had never heard before. He waited for her to notice him. She didn't. "Lera," he said quietly when there was a pause. She turned, her eyes meeting his. There was no anger in them, only calm distance. "Ilya," she said evenly. "You look surprised." He swallowed. "I didn't think you'd actually come." Her lips curved into the faintest, most dangerous smile. "I never joke," she said, and walked away, leaving him standing in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by murmurs and fading pride. The days after the gala felt different, not just for Ilya, but for everyone at the company. The story of Lera's stunning entrance had spread like wildfire. People whispered in corridors, replayed videos secretly filmed at the event, and suddenly, everyone wanted to be her friend. In the cafeteria, the same coworkers who used to laugh behind her back now greeted her with bright smiles. "Lera, your dress was incredible. You looked like a star. You should have seen Ilya's face," they said, half teasing, half in awe. But Lera didn't gloat. She smiled politely, thanked them, and returned to her work as if nothing had changed. Yet everything had. Her posture was different, her voice steadier. She no longer kept her eyes down. It was as though she had stepped into a light she didn't know was hers all along. Ilya watched it all in silence. He noticed how her confidence made others gravitate toward her. Even the CEO had begun to stop by her desk, asking for her opinion on financial reports. One morning, Ilya entered the meeting room and found her already there, discussing projections with the directors. She didn't notice him at first, or maybe she did and simply chose not to. When the meeting ended, he lingered. "You've changed," he said softly, almost to himself. Lera turned, arching an eyebrow. "Or maybe you just never looked properly." The words hit harder than she probably intended, but she didn't wait for his response. She gathered her papers and left the room, her perfume lingering like an echo of the night he couldn't forget. That afternoon, Ilya sat at his desk, staring blankly at the report in front of him. The numbers swam together, meaningless compared to the image of her walking away. He remembered every detail from the gala, the hush that fell over the room, the way her eyes had dismissed him. For the first time, he realized how small his world had been, built on empty charm and cheap laughs. His friends, of course, didn't understand. "Come on, man," one said at lunch. "It's just Lera. Don't tell me you're actually hung up on her." Ilya didn't answer. He just smiled faintly. They wouldn't get it. They hadn't seen what he had, the strength, the quiet pride, the fire behind those calm eyes. As the weeks passed, Lera's rise continued. She handled a major financial audit flawlessly, earning public praise from the CEO. Soon, rumors started that she might be promoted to head of accounting, a position that would place her above Ilya himself. He didn't resent it. In fact, he admired it, though the admiration twisted painfully inside him. One evening, after everyone had gone home, he saw her still in the office. The city lights shimmered through the tall windows, and she was there, focused, graceful, completely in control. He hesitated at the door, then spoke softly. "You really showed me something that night." Lera didn't look up. "What's that?" That confidence can be louder than any joke. She finally turned, her expression unreadable. "Good," she said. "Then maybe you learned something." Her tone wasn't cruel, just honest. She went back to her work, and Ilya stood there for a moment longer before leaving quietly. That night, he walked through the rain, jacket over his shoulder, feeling the strange weight of humility for the first time. He didn't know what he wanted anymore, her forgiveness, her attention, or just another chance to stop being the man who once made her feel small. Weeks passed, but the tension between Lera and Ilya only deepened. The office no longer laughed behind anyone's back, it buzzed with quiet respect whenever she entered a room. Lera's transformation had reshaped not just her reputation but the entire company's hierarchy. She wasn't the shy accountant anymore, she was becoming a leader, someone others instinctively listened to. And that scared Ilya more than he could admit. It was a rainy Thursday evening when everything between them shifted again. The company was hosting a critical investor presentation, one that could determine their next year's funding. Lera had prepared the numbers, the projections, the entire structure. Ilya was leading the pitch. They had no choice but to work together. The conference room was cold, lined with tall glass walls that reflected the tension inside. Investors from Moscow and London sat around the polished table, their expressions hard and impatient. Lera stood near the projector, calm and composed, flipping through slides. Ilya spoke smoothly, though every time his eyes met hers, his words faltered, not because he didn't know what to say, but because her presence disarmed him. Midway through the meeting, one of the senior investors, a smug, gray-haired man, interrupted sharply. "These figures are optimistic," he said, leaning back. "You're assuming profit growth that your company's never achieved before. Who made these calculations?" Lera straightened. "I did," she said clearly. The man chuckled. "Ah, the accountant. No offense, dear, but finance projections aren't women's strengths." The room went still. The words hung heavy in the air. Ilya froze. A year ago, he might have laughed awkwardly, looked away, said nothing. But not this time. "With respect," he said, his voice firm, "these projections are solid. And if you knew anything about this company, you'd know she's the reason we're still standing after the last quarter." The investor frowned. "Excuse me." Ilya took a step forward, his tone unshakable. "You asked who made the numbers. The answer is the person who built the model that saved this company from bankruptcy last year. So yes, they're ambitious. But that's exactly why we'll meet them." The silence that followed was electric. Lera's heart pounded, but she didn't move. She just watched him, truly watched him, as if seeing someone she'd never met before. When the meeting ended, the investors left with firm handshakes and approving nods. The deal was secured. The company would thrive another year. As the room emptied, Lera stayed behind, quietly gathering her papers. Ilya lingered near the door, the rain outside painting silver streaks on the glass. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "Yes," he replied, "I did." She looked up. "Why?" He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "Because I was that man once, the one who thought it was funny to make you small. And I hate that he ever existed." The sound of the rain filled the silence between them. Lera's expression softened, the sharpness in her eyes fading just a little. "People don't change that easily," she said. "I know," he admitted. "But maybe some of us try harder when we lose something real." For the first time since that unforgettable night at the gala, Lera didn't turn away. She didn't smile either, but her gaze lingered, thoughtful, almost warm. Months passed. The air between Lera and Ilya had shifted into something quieter, deeper, a fragile peace built from honesty and unspoken understanding. They worked side by side now, no longer as rivals but as partners in every sense of the word. The company had grown under their joint leadership, and even the most cynical employees admitted that their teamwork was extraordinary. But outside the office walls, something unspoken lingered. Late nights spent finalizing contracts, brief glances over coffee cups, small smiles that lasted a little too long. Every moment carried a weight neither of them dared to name. One evening, after a long business trip, they found themselves stranded together at the airport. A storm had grounded all flights, leaving the terminal nearly empty. Ilya sat beside her, his jacket draped over the back of his chair, watching as Lera scrolled through her phone. The soft hum of rain against the windows filled the silence between them. "You still think about that night?" he asked suddenly. Lera looked up, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Which night?" "The gala," he said quietly. "When you walked in and the whole room stopped breathing." She smiled faintly, leaning back in her chair. "I think you stopped breathing. The room was fine." He chuckled softly. "You're probably right. I'd never seen anyone so sure of themselves. I didn't even recognize you." "That's because you never tried to," she replied, though her voice wasn't sharp this time. "You looked, but you didn't see." He nodded, his gaze falling to the floor. "I deserved that." A pause. The storm outside grew louder. Then, quietly, she asked, "So why bring it up now?" He met her eyes. "Because that was the night everything changed for me. I thought I was the one in control, the one making the joke. But the moment you walked in, I realized I'd been the fool all along. You didn't just surprise me, you woke me up." Lera didn't answer right away. She stared out the window, the glow of lightning painting her face in soft flashes of white and gold. "You know," she said finally, "I used to think I came that night just to prove you wrong. But looking back, maybe I came to prove something to myself. He smiled. Then I guess we both learned something from the same mistake. They fell silent again, the tension no longer sharp but peaceful, like two people who had finally stopped running from their pasts. When the announcement finally came, that flights were resuming, they stood together, neither moving to leave just yet. "Ilya," she said, turning to him. "You've changed." He looked at her, really looked, not like a man seeing beauty for the first time, but like someone recognizing something sacred he'd almost lost. "You made me," he said simply. "Without you, I'd still be that man who thought confidence came from laughter." She smiled, small and real. "And without you, I'd still be hiding from my own reflection." As the storm cleared, the city lights sparkled outside like 1,000 tiny promises. They walked side by side toward the gate, close enough that their shoulders brushed but not close enough to break the quiet magic of the moment. When they reached the boarding line, Ilya stopped and turned to her. His voice was low, sincere. "When I invited you that night," he said, "I thought it was just a joke. But it turned out to be the smartest thing I ever did." Lera's lips curved into a soft, knowing smile. "And I thought I was just proving a point," she whispered. "But maybe I was finding one." The final boarding call echoed through the hall. They stepped forward together, no longer the joke and the punchline, but two people who had learned that sometimes a single cruel laugh can spark the beginning of something true.